Hey y'all, welcome to my channel and I hope you're doing good. So if you're here today, that clearly means that you are struggling with your base and you're always wondering, why does your face look a lot more cakier compared to what we see, like let's say images from the Met Gala or any kind of fashion week. So I'm going to be showing you the do's and don'ts of achieving a flawless base today, and that way you can avoid cakiness with your makeup. So this is the target of the day and we're going to break it down into simple, easy steps for you to understand. So let's start off. So for step number one, we have facial hair removal. I cannot stress about how important this is. You can go ahead with like waxing or shaving or threading, anything that works for you, but having a skin which does not have any kind of hair on it makes it a lot more easier for your makeup application. Because when you look at a person up close, you will realize that the hair is kind of like in the way of the foundation. So the foundation doesn't stick on the skin. It kind of grabs onto the hair and it just makes the texture of skin look a lot more worse. So it's a lot more advisable that if you have a big event coming up forward and if you want your face to look very flawless, then go ahead and get rid of any hair on your skin. That is going to help you to have that smoother, flawless finish on the face. So moving on to step number two, we're going to talk about skin prep. So what I would recommend is that you have a good exfoliating routine and you also have an everyday skincare routine. So for more information, I'll drop it in the comment section or in the description bar. That way you can like check on the links and you can go like particularly watch those certain topics. But now moving on from that, we're going to be doing the skin prep on one side of the face, and this includes an under eye cream if you want your under eye area to look really good up close. We're only going to be doing the skincare on one side, so I'm going to use a bit of toning mist. So once that's done, I'm going to give it a couple of seconds to sink into the skin, and then I'm going to use an emulsion today instead of a moisturizer because moisturizers are too heavy for me in the summer. So once I'm done with my moisturizer, I'm going to use the most tiniest amount of eye cream on the under eye as well as the inner area over here, which is where a lot of us face issues with like skin texture. So we're going to apply some there. So you want to make sure that your skin is a lot more like emollient and not dry. Like don't use a gel based product. Like for example, do not use an aloe vera gel on the face like a moisturizer because that is going to dry. And once you start to work your foundation into your skin, you're going to get small foundation balls, or you'll get these small lines which are coming in the middle of your makeup. So it's better to use a moisturizer which is going to keep that emollient texture on the skin. That way, it kind of sits better when you start applying your products. So step number three is the most important thing to do, and that is about choosing the perfect product. Now, let's say you have dry skin and you choose a product which is meant for oily skin. Your skin is going to start looking cakey. Instead, use a foundation which is appropriate to your skin type. And the same thing goes with the oily skin category as well. Now, once you have identified the right kind of foundation for you, it's important to make sure that the base which you're using, that is your foundation, as well as your concealer, is going to be of the same medium compared to your moisturizer. So let's say I'm taking a water-based foundation, make sure that everything is of the same type. Let's say you're using a silicone-based foundation, make sure that you're using a primer, which is like a silicone primer in the middle. That way it is all of the same texture, so one will not repel the other one. That way your makeup does not kind of come away and cause any kind of creasing or movement. So moving on to step number four, we're going to be talking about the application method, and this is one of the most important things to do when it comes to your base. So a lot of us, what we tend to do is to dot product on the entire skin and then we start to blend it onto the skin. I will really not recommend this method. Instead, I would say that you take it from a certain makeup plate or the back of your hand and you slowly start to work that into your skin. So you want to make sure that you're starting with less, and then if needed, you can always go ahead and add a little more. For today's demo, I'm going to be using the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. So that's about all that I'm going to be taking for today. So like what I told in the don't side, I'm going to dot the product all over my face, including the under eye area. So I'm just going to take the product and like diffuse it on the back of my hand itself. So I get like a wash of color, and I'm going to start by working this into the skin. And as you can see, I'm skipping my under eye area because I am going to be going with a concealer. So I don't want to have two layers of product in that area. Now, as you can see, the skin gets a little better as it starts to go towards the sides. So I'm just going to go with a light wash of color. So I'm going to be taking a little bit of the deeper shade when it comes to the forehead, because that is where my skin is a lot more darker. So now you can see that the foundation doesn't look like it has been like applied. So if I went with the same color which I applied on my cheek, you would see like a distinct line when it came near my hairline. So this way it's going to look a lot more real and a lot more natural. And make sure that you're blending it really well into your hairline and then towards your ears and in your ears also if you're having your hair up, and then you can take it down into the jaw area. So let's go ahead and do the don't side. So ideally this is what we're all used to doing, just kind of pulling it all up. So you can see my skin already starts to look cakey. It's like the same foundation, but it starts to look a lot more cakey because I have a very thick layer of product on the skin right now. For step 6, we're going to be doing something which is my most favorite step, that is to use a stippling brush. And this is the pack 304. I'm going to use this and stipple the product into my skin. Do it when the foundation is still wet, so don't immediately after you kind of blend it into the skin. So what this would do is to push the product into your skin. So once you're done doing this, it's going to give you a much more smoother and a much more even finish on your skin. Okay, so moving on to step number 7, which is a very important step, which I'm 100% sure that none of you are actually doing, which is to wait for your foundation to dry by itself. So once that is done, your base is also going to be a little more dry. So since your base is going to start setting by itself, it's going to absorb a lot lesser amount of powder, which in turn is going to make sure that your skin does not start looking cakey over a period of time. So while I'm waiting for my base to dry, I'm just going to go ahead and do my concealer. It's not a concealer tutorial, so I'm not focusing a lot on my technique. So once you feel like your base has like naturally dry, we're going to take a tissue and I'm going to separate the plies in the tissue. I think this is a 2-ply tissue. So we have a single ply of the tissue, and what I'm going to do is to gently dab that upon my skin. I'm not going to rub and I'm not going to pull. I'm only dabbing it, especially in the area where you tend to start having a couple of problems with some time, which is usually my chin area and the sides of my nose for me. This way all the excess amount of foundation is going to come off. You can even do this on the under eye as well as the lid area. This way you can save yourself from the cakiness with some amount of time. So once you're done doing this, we're going to go ahead with a little bit of setting powder. I'm going to use a pizza puff kind of a sponge. So what you need to do is to push the product into your skin rather than pulling and tugging, and use as less as possible. That way your skin will hold on looking like really, like having this very natural finish throughout the day. I know a lot of people who use a compact to set their bases, and trust me, it just does not work out at all. So I'm just going to be using a compact to set my base. I'm just kind of like digging into my compact, and we're going to start to apply some product on the base with the compact, and you can see that it just looks so cakey already. It looks very cakey. I'm really not a fan of using a compact for setting my base. I'm really not a fan of compacts itself, to be honest. So using a compact is just going to destroy a face. I know that a lot of us still do this, that we put on the foundation and the concealer and then we use ton loads of compact. So it just does not give you a very flawless finish. Rather, it makes your skin look very powdery and very textured. Step number 10 is going to be about using a setting spray, not a finishing mist, none of those face mists and moisturizing ones and none of that, a setting spray. If you have oily skin and if you feel like your makeup is looking very textured, a setting spray can come in handy, because this is going to kind of melt the upper layer of your makeup and fuse it together. So even if you have a little bit of powdery texture, or if you feel like you've got a little overboard with your concealer and the foundation, you can use a setting spray, and with probably a couple of minutes your face is going to start looking a lot more natural, a lot more smoother and realistic. So we're going to go ahead with setting spray on this side of the face. So now that you can see my base, you have a fair idea about what both the sides look like, and you can see how realistic this looks like. It looks like my skin and it looks more realistic. This like natural skin texture kind of showing through, like the good texture on the face showing through. And this just looks like a caked up human being. I could already see my foundation starting to separate around the nose area, and the under eyes look so bad. So I hope you all try this one out, and make sure you try out the 10 steps which I've told you today, and it's gonna completely change your makeup game. So I hope you all found this helpful, and give me a big thumbs up if you like this video, and stay tuned for more. Until next time, bye bye.